Hello and welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to point out that betas are buggy.
Oh, come on, Bruce. That's a little too direct. But unfortunately, that might be the ultimate and very brave takeaway of today's report, focusing on the Battlefield 2042 open beta reception and further accusations of studio turmoil.
The open beta ran from October 6th to October 9th. We played a ton of it. And while it did not please the entire crowd, because no video game does, it did stir up some more serious controversy.
This is all from longtime Battlefield leaker Tom Henderson, who recently graduated to full games journalist.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. Welcome to the shit show. They posted an article on GamingIntel.com that accused Battlefield 2042 as having, quote, troubled development and a, quote, identity crisis.
It's so bad, according to Henderson's sources, that some hard-working DICE developers are concerned for their jobs.
That certainly sounds serious. If people are worried about getting laid off or thinking about quitting, and a little confusing from our perspective. Bruce, we both played the beta on PC, and it was a beta. You know, some things were broken or not there. But it certainly didn't imply that mass layoffs were around the corner for DICE or anything like that. But we also haven't really talked about the report at all, so let's do that.
So Henderson initially takes issue with the beta's supposed build date. This was the first thing I read over and over this week, reporting that the beta's build settings listed a build date of September 20th, 2021. He specifically notes this is one day before the previously intended beta date, though that must also be according to his insider info, because DICE really never announced a date more specific than September for the original open beta.
So based on that September build date, Henderson deduces a few claims from that. First of all, that the build must not have been substantially changed, even though DICE did delay the open beta from September to October. And second, that the state of the beta is alarming given how recent it is, and that DICE only has another month or so to get it launch ready from that state.
Henderson also points out that the state seemingly conflicts with reassuring statements from DICE producer Ben Walk on Reddit, who said that the beta build was taken from a few months ago in response to concerns about the beta's polish.
So luckily here, Henderson posted some clips of his experience on PlayStation 5 to Twitter. Because, yeah, this vision of a horribly broken Battlefield 2042 isn't really what either of us saw on PC.
Yeah, these clips don't look great and would certainly inspire concern if we played on PS5, which neither of us did. So I completely understand Tom's concern here.
I need help!
And it does, yeah, it looks super buggy. It looks like it's not ready to launch in a month and change. So basically what we have so far is we got this really crazy buggy game on one platform at least, and some confusing information that implies the build is way more recent than previously thought or said, which, whoa, is EA up to their old tricks again?
I knew it, EA behind the scenes killing us again.
I need help!
Unfortunately, he is completely mistaken about the date. As a result of this report, DICE developers contacted him to correct that part.
So this is one of those things that it's an easy mistake to make, but it does deserve clarification because it is kind of a very basic part of this report. Anyway, a build date, as explained by the developers, is largely irrelevant to the state of the game or when the code was actually forked off. So Walk also explained this on Reddit as well. DICE has a launch day version of the code that they're constantly iterating and adding to and fixing bugs and stuff like that. And then off from that, they fork off other portions of the game. So this is betas and demos, E3 builds and stuff like that. They kind of break it off from the main code and work on that specifically to customize it for the function it's going to have, while the other version of the game is getting iterated on for release.
Yeah, that's why we see the open beta, or we see sometimes an E3 demo or whatever. Sometimes those things don't play out exactly the way you saw them when you're actually playing the game. That's when those are forked out builds. The developers that contacted Henderson provided dates of August 19th and August 24th as the specific fork dates for the beta build, which is closer to the few months Walk referenced before, and presumably means there's more of a development gap between the beta and the launch version of the game than a September date would imply.
Walk even discussed some of the fixes that are already implemented and just didn't make the beta fork. UI improvements, XP rewards for spotting and driving transports, more classic Battlefield features, which, to be honest, is good. I did kind of miss those mobile spawn bonuses because sometimes that's the most effective I feel in a match of Battlefield. Trying to keep a helicopter in the air and not getting shot down while people are just spawning out and flying out like a clown car. It's great.
There's more reason to hope that Battlefield 2042 will actually work at launch, not to mention that clarifying build dates basically invalidates one of the main criticisms of Tom Henderson's article.
But he's got more. Spicy secret info, Bruce. Bombshell insider accusations. These are some hot leaks. I gotta pound my desk for enthusiasm or for emphasis here. Hot leaks.
Those are super hot, super. And by the way, also Tom Henderson, 100% has been a very reliable leaker for a very long time. So I don't necessarily call these into question immediately. So he sources 2 anonymous developers, one of whom is identified as an associate at DICE, while the other is completely anonymous.
But here are the accusations. Based on these sources, these 2 sources, Henderson reveals that management, they're always referred to as management, is, quote, not committed enough to the project. Apparently, there is a yes man of sorts in management that is making work conditions not great, which is understandable. And as a separate complaint, problems were presented to management early on in development. Those were ignored, and now there's bigger issues on down the line. What issues those were not detailed. That's just kind of the flow of things and how it's the complaining going on.
The sources also claim that management, quote, loved some of Modern Warfare 2019's aspects, and you can actually see that in the beta, by the way, and encouraged the studio to make something similar. Though, quote, it's unclear what exactly this means, end quote.
The situation apparently has people afraid for their jobs, as we noted before, but the report says that, quote, no indication from management on layoffs has been discussed.
And that's it. That's all we got. So,
Yeah, as I noted before, it's a little frustrating that management is never identified in any way. I mean, we're left to assume it's just Electronic Arts, right? They're the boogeyman. They're the ones calling all the shots. But the management described here kind of sounds like normal shitty managers, which could just be EA, but I mean, it could be DICE too.
no, that's true. It could be either way. Henderson does mention that, quote, some management figures also worked on 2017's Battlefront 2. Though he provides no context or information on what that means aside from game was bad, so executive bad. Which is, I mean, you know, again, that was a major complaint for Battlefront 2, and I can see that problem if the same executives in charge of Battlefront, or was in charge of Battlefront, is now in charge of Battlefield 2042.
Yeah, and if it's the same philosophy of like Battlefront 2, everyone loves FIFA, so let's copy what FIFA's doing, and it didn't work. And then we see that same philosophy here of everyone loves Warzone, so let's copy Warzone. I can see why that correlation is problematic, but it's a little tenuous to make all of those assumptions based on what we've seen here.
Right. We don't want to be dismissive of situations we do not understand, but if you really list all this out, you've got 2 developers, maybe, that are complaining about yes men in management and problems that could have been fixed earlier.
Which is annoying, but it also kind of sounds like every job, at least the annoying ones, which are most jobs, really. So yeah, management doesn't have a clue. If they had only listened to us or me, this wouldn't be a problem. I've said it myself. You know, yeah, it's just kind of work.
Only unhappy employees talk shit about their companies. This certainly sounds like some annoyed shit talking. I've seen a few DICE developers come out and are super happy with the beta. They're like, no, I really enjoyed the beta, and I hope you guys do too. Like, they seem very positive. Maybe they're lying, but they seem very positive about it. So from what we know, it doesn't sound like it crosses into troubled development territory, but obviously we don't have the full story. If we trust Tom Henderson, he might have a little bit more of it than we do.
Yeah, that's true. I guess where I get skeptical is reports that seem extremely negative but don't quite seem to have concrete things to back it up, which is kind of how this sounds. That said, I didn't play on PS5, and I could see being a little more salty about it if I had. But ultimately here, Henderson claims that the, quote, Battlefield 2042 beta is unmistakable evidence of troubled development.
Going by the clips Henderson posted,
I need help!
and certainly if you run with the mistaken assumption that the build is less than a month old, which we've now proven is not true, that kind of seems reasonable that Tom said that.
It wasn't really that bad on every platform, at least not on PC. I wouldn't consider the beta that we played unmistakable evidence of the game having trouble in development, right? I don't know, Bruce, how do you feel about that?
I agree, but Lawrence, you and I took a lot of shit for saying the same thing about Cyberpunk, because we both played it on PC, and I was like really excited to play it on my upgraded PC, and I was like, man, I really like this game. And as soon as I tweeted about it, everyone's like, it's garbage on everything else. And I was like, all right, okay, never mind. So maybe that's where this is landing. I'm not sure.
I really hope this isn't a trend where somehow, I mean, we get to be smug about it, but is this really where it's going, that somehow PC is the most stable and feature complete platform? It used to be the total opposite.
Yeah, that's super weird. Also, this is gonna sound insane, but I was genuinely impressed that we were able to get into a game at launch of the beta as a squad and play together for 3 hours. I really honestly was very impressed by that.
Yeah, because it took, gosh, you couldn't do that in Battlefield 4 at launch, and you couldn't even do it for like 2 weeks, 3? until you could actually be with friends and drop into a match together and it would keep you together. Crazy.
What's more strange here is that while Henderson points to the stability of the demo as evidence that the game is screwed, it doesn't seem to be the most common complaint about this demo or the beta.
Yeah, so guess what? We're on the internet. There's no such thing as a complete consensus on anything, so we're not bringing this up to try to be like evidence or anything like that. This is just sampling the reception of the demo.
So Reddit thread voting would indicate most Battlefield players are upset about the fundamental changes to the gameplay and systems, not the fact that it didn't run well.
Yeah, well, maybe most people just took that on the chin because it's like it's Battlefield beta. But yeah, it seems like most people were kind of weirded out about the gun customization and the complete lack of a real class system. A lot of people found that since you could change your entire gun on the fly, and since loadouts weren't really tied to any given class or even like visual identity, it didn't really feel like Battlefield anymore, since pretty much anything could be changed or customized.
I can see that. I mean, the class system is absolutely the DNA of Battlefield, so I get why people thought that. Other players noted that movement options from previous Battlefield games are gone, like the ability to sprint, crouch, or lie on your back, and I noticed this right away, and I was like, why would they get rid of that stuff? Because I thought they had nailed it with Battlefield 5, but I guess not.
Yeah, that was kind of the real takeaway, is that some people were just like, I just wanted Battlefield 5's movement with Battlefield 4's guns. Why couldn't we just do that? But instead, what do we have, Bruce? We got a double sprint. What other game has that?
Well, you know, Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty. So certainly the layout of the game, the way that classes are changed, all of that really does congeal into the argument that this game is lifting mechanics from battle royales, or as some people have speculated, was a battle royale itself at some point. And that certainly reinforces Henderson's reporting that management wanted it to be more like Modern Warfare, or Warzone specifically.
Yeah, that whole thing about how the Battlefield 2042 beta, or actually just the development of this game, was originally a battle royale development. I was like, whoa, I hadn't even thought of that. And the more that I played the more thinking back on playing the beta, the more I was like, I could see that they were trying to make a battle royale, but instead they were like, fuck it, let's just make a full game.
Which is confusing, given that Firestorm didn't seem to really light people on fire.
Not at all. No, not at all. This kind of syncs up with Henderson's comment about executives wanting elements from Modern Warfare 2019 in the game. That's probably the most believable part of the report, since it's pretty obviously implemented in the game based on the beta.
Yeah, it's right there. You can play it. It's pretty obvious, yeah. So now if we repackage this narrative a little bit, EA really liked Modern Warfare. They wanted Battlefield to be like it, and that's why 2042 is trash garbage.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna have to drop an eye roll bomb on you, but this is exactly how this works every time with mass market products. They want to have features that are current and in demand, so every modern game will always absorb marketable elements of the games around it. That's just the way it goes. Same with movies, same with television, same with books and music. Just the way it goes.
Yeah, I hate to be so condescending about it, but if you think about it, the Battlefield that you really liked, or were hoping, I mean, that was probably itself a mishmash of things that were popular right then. Nothing exists in a vacuum, and nothing is like a wholly original creation, blah, 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 blah. Point is that, like, it's just the same process happening. It's just that maybe this game isn't specifically targeting all the things that you wanted. It's just kind of cribbing things like it always has, really.
Yeah. And of course, by the way, you are allowed, as a consumer, to have a preference of experience. So you're allowed to be salty about it. The game is not your preferred flavor. But the problem is you can't realistically expect mass market products to intentionally ignore successful modes and features that players just demonstrate they want and play over and over and over.
So maybe the Battlefield you liked isn't going to be this one, or the features that you liked about previous Battlefields, that's not really what they're retaining for this one. That sucks. I know what that's like. And maybe Battlefield as a whole idea is moving away from where you want it to stay, doomed to copy more popular flash-in-the-pan shooters forever. That also sucks. Or, possible upside here, maybe it'll actually hybridize, and it'll borrow something new, it'll keep what was old, and it'll make a new thing that you can judge on its own merits.
That sounds like a better product to me. And that about rounds out the whole Battlefield 2042 beta reception. Lots of disappointed people on Reddit, what's new, and anonymous accusations that management just doesn't understand what's new.
I guess I would, in the wake of any, or in the absence of any information, I'd like to believe that everyone at DICE is really jazzed about it, and happy with where the game is, and excited for people to play it, instead of moping around mad at EA and ready to quit. I just hope that that's just a couple of disgruntled developers, and it's not representative of the entire company.
Lawrence, though, we both got to fly to space. And that ain't so bad for a Warzone copycat, right? We hooked onto that rocket, went all the way up.
You can't rodeo a rocket in Warzone, at least not yet, so that still feels like Battlefield to me. But it's good you brought up Warzone and copying Warzone, because Battlefield also has a combat zone now. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but Warzone was taken, obviously, so they called it Hazard Zone.
God, I wish I could have been in the room with the dry erase board and all the different zones that they had. Battle zone taken. Fuck.
Enemy zone.
Fire zone.
Bad guy zone.
Oh, shoot zone. Gunfire zone. So yeah, if you played the beta, you saw the mysterious thing in the menu, and they basically said it was going to be there before, but DICE finally announced all the details for the new mode today, which is not free to play like a lot of people were expecting.
I have been saying it over and over that this Hazard Zone needs to be free to play, or else Battlefield is in for a world of hurt for the first 3 or 4 months this game is out. So, and it's obviously completely different than Warzone. It's actually Escape from Tarkov. It's Tarkov.
So yeah, here's the idea. In Hazard Zone, your squad of 4 drops into a Battlefield map, which incidentally will be the same 7 map pool that you play in Conquest mode. And you guys have to retrieve as many hard drives from crashing satellites as you can before successfully extracting.
Yeah, the Tarkov twist here is that you buy equipment and character upgrades with an in-game currency. And yes, of course, it's gone if you die, just like Tarkov. No details on if you can loot items or weapons from other players, though. I mean, I would assume you could.
I would assume, yeah, and get all the hard drives they're carrying, which makes sense too. So theoretically, a mode like this is not about killing other players, but people will, because people are psychopaths.
Luckily, the info page about the mode promises that all the upgrades, quote, use dark market credits, which can only be obtained through gameplay and not via real-world currency. So at least you won't lose a $100 gun because the power went out. that would suck.
Tarkov already gives me anxiety. I don't know that I can handle that if I spent real money on something. So the lore of the mode is kind of neat, because 2042 is in this weird sort of absurdist near future thing going on. Countries, because there was like an EMP blackout, all the high satellites kind of just fell off into space or crashed into Earth. Countries now have to use low orbit satellites to collect intel on other factions. They fire stuff up, it rounds the planet and then crashes into their own territory. And then they dispatch their own forces to go collect the hard drives. But that's not you. You're a no-pat, or a no-patriot, so you have no nation. So you're basically like a data pirate going in there, shooting them, stealing their hard drives so you can sell that data on the black market.
That's right. So, are you gonna spend $70, not 60 sometimes, $70 on Hazard Zone and only multiplayer? What are you guys gonna do?
We'll see. I don't know where the reception's at right now. I think, Bruce, like you, everyone's a little shocked that it's not free to play, which is interesting.
They gotta make it. They have to make it. I've been saying they have to make it free to play, or else that's it. Like, this game's gonna die just like 5 and 1 and all sorts of. It's just. I just hope they don't. They gotta make it. I love Battlefield so much, and I just want them to succeed. You know, I'm just like, please make it free to play, please.
What are the problems you see with it not being free to play? Just not having enough players?
Yeah, well, that, and also it was just like, it was the same with Firestorm, where Firestorm was not free to play when it first came out, their Battle Royale in Battlefield 5. And so when they dropped it, I was like, okay, so they have a player base of it was kind of small at the time, but it died within weeks. Firestorm was just empty within weeks, and it's the same with Hazard Zone. Hazard Zone will probably work for a month or two, and then after 2 months, they're just not going to have the games as a service thing that EA wants.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think I'm already sold on the Conquest mode for the game. The beta on PC at least, was already more functional than Battlefield has been at launch. So, and if it's like 2 months old at this point, then that's looking good on PC. And for this mode, for Hazard Zone, I mean, it seems a little more approachable since I'm already kind of familiar with Battlefield than something entirely different like Escape from Tarkov. I guess maybe the one twist that might keep it a little bit alive is even if you don't have any other players that match with you, you still have to deal with the AI-controlled occupying territories of any given map. You have to run around and shoot AI people and then steal hard drives, but AI is probably going to be really easy.
You got to do that in Tarkov, and actually, the AI in Tarkov is not necessarily easy too. So occasionally you'll run up against a dude who will just smack you in the head, and you don't even realize it, and he was AI. So I mean, you know, again, I think it's a good idea to copy the Escape from Tarkov game mode, because I think Tarkov is a really cool game mode that not a lot of people are copying. But don't charge $70 for it with no single player. You know, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, well, That's where we're at. I guess for me, I consider it a bonus mode that's going to come along with my Battlefield. But because of that, I don't know that I'll be spending a lot of time in it. But maybe it'll steal my heart. Who's to say? How do you feel about it, Bruce? Aside from it not being free, how do you feel about it?
Oh no, I mean I'm gonna give it a shot and play it. But I mean, if there's no player base, there's no reason to go back to it. Then, I mean, even if I enjoy it, I won't play it more than once a week or whatever. And I love Battlefield. Again, like I'm playing the old Battlefields once a week right now. So it's like, if this just dies, well, I have no reason to go back to it. I don't know. Come on, Dice! I love you so much!
Don't do this to Bruce, Dice. Look at him. He loves you so much.
And if you work at Dice, we're really sorry you got to deal with Tom Henderson. Sorry about that.